I think I didn't do anything wrong. Just tested how much my husband trusted me by flirting with his friends. I never thought it would go further, but now I'm sitting here with legal papers in my hands, and everyone's looking at me like I'm the villain. Honestly, I still don't understand why he's making such a big deal out of it. My name is Eulalia Brent, and I've been married to Matthew for 8 years. We have a beautiful 6-year-old daughter, Ava, and what I thought was a solid marriage. I work in technical support, Matthew's an accountant, and we live a pretty normal suburban life, or at least we did, until everything fell apart over what I still believe was just harmless fun. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. It started innocently enough at our local bar and grill. Matthew and I were out with his friends for our monthly group dinner, something we'd been doing for years. The conversation was boring as usual, mostly work talk and sports, when I decided to liven things up a bit. "You know, Landon," I said, leaning forward with a playful smile, "you've been working out, haven't you? Those arms are looking pretty impressive." Landon Cruz, one of Matthew's oldest friends, grinned and flexed, jokingly. "Thanks for noticing, Eulalia. At least someone appreciates the effort." I caught Matthew's eye and winked. "Oh, I definitely notice. Don't I, honey?" Matthew forced a laugh, but I could see the discomfort in his eyes. "Yeah, sure." My friend Tracy, who was sitting across from me, giggled and encouraged me with a knowing look. She'd always said I was too reserved, that I should have more fun. "Eulalia's just being friendly, guys. Nothing wrong with appreciating good-looking friends, right?" Throughout the evening, I kept the playful banter going. I complimented Landon's new haircut, laughed a little too loudly at his jokes, and even playfully touched his arm when he told a funny story. It felt good to be noticed, to see male attention that wasn't just routine married life. When we got home that night, Matthew was unusually quiet as we got ready for bed. "You seem to really enjoy yourself tonight," he said carefully. "I was just having fun," I replied, brushing my hair. "God, Matthew, you're not jealous of a little harmless flirting, are you? I was just testing how secure you are in our marriage." "Testing me?" His voice carried a note I'd never heard before. "Oh, come on. You know I love you. I was just seeing if you trusted me, and clearly you don't, which is kind of sad." Matthew didn't respond, just turned away and pretended to sleep. The next morning, I called my mother, Carmen, to vent about Matthew's reaction. "Mija, you're young and beautiful," she said dismissively. "If your husband can't handle other men finding you attractive, that's his problem. You should do what makes you happy." But Matthew's mother, Patricia, had apparently heard about the evening from one of the other wives. She called Matthew at work the next day. "Son, I don't want to interfere, but Sarah mentioned that Eulalia was being very friendly with your friends last night. Just be careful, okay?" A few days later, we were at another friend's party, and I decided to test the waters again. This time, I made sure to include Matthew in my jokes, but in a way that highlighted how different he was from his more outgoing friends. "You know what I love about Matthew?" I announced to the group after a few drinks. "He's so secure in himself that he doesn't mind when I appreciate other men. Right, honey? Not like those jealous, insecure husbands you hear about." Everyone laughed, but Matthew's smile didn't reach his eyes. I could see him withdrawing, becoming quieter as the evening progressed. Later that night, I found him sitting in our living room in the dark. "Matthew, what are you doing?" He looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not hurt, but something colder. "Eulalia, do you enjoy making me look weak in front of my friends?" "What?" "I don't make you look weak. I was just having fun. You're being way too sensitive about this." He stared at me for a long moment, then got up and went to bed without another word. Over the next few weeks, I doubled down on my behavior. If Matthew was going to be insecure about innocent flirting, I'd show him just how ridiculous he was being. At the next gathering, I made sure to be even more playful. "Landon, you should give Matthew some workout tips," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe he could get arms like yours, though I suppose not everyone can be naturally athletic." The group laughed awkwardly, and I caught several people exchanging glances. But Landon seemed to enjoy the attention, and that encouraged me. "I'd be happy to help," Landon said, playing along, "though I think Matthew looks fine as he is." "Oh, you're sweet," I replied, touching Landon's shoulder. "Always so diplomatic." Matthew barely spoke for the rest of the evening. When we got home, he went straight to his home office and closed the door. The next day, Tracy called me, excited. "Girl, you were on fire last night. Landon couldn't take his eyes off you." "It's just harmless fun," I insisted. "I'm trying to show Matthew that he needs to trust me more. If he can't handle me being friendly with his friends, what does that say about our marriage?" "Exactly. You're not doing anything wrong. You're married, not dead." But things at home were getting tense. Ava had started acting out at school, and her teacher called to express concern about her sudden behavioral changes. "She seems anxious and distracted," Mrs. Peterson explained. "Has anything changed at home recently?" I assured her everything was fine, but privately I was annoyed that Matthew's moodiness was affecting our daughter. Patricia had started avoiding me at family gatherings, and Matthew's brother Darren pulled him aside after Sunday dinner. "Matt, are you okay? You seem different lately." "I'm fine," Matthew replied curtly. But I could see he wasn't fine. He was pulling away from me, from everyone. He'd come home from work later than usual, claiming he had extra projects. He'd stopped trying to engage me in conversation about my day or our plans. One evening, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from Landon. "You up? Can't stop thinking about our conversation earlier." I glanced over at Matthew, who was already in bed with his back to me. He looked so defeated, so resigned. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt, but a bigger part felt vindicated. See? Other men found me interesting and attractive. Why couldn't my husband appreciate what he had? I typed back, "Just getting ready for bed. What conversation?" "About how you feel unappreciated at home. I think you deserve better." I stared at the message, my heart racing a little. This was exactly what I'd been missing. Someone who saw me, who valued me. "That's sweet of you to say," I replied. "Maybe we could grab coffee sometime? Just to talk." I looked over at Matthew again. He was so still, so distant. What harm could coffee do? "I'd like that," I typed back, then quickly deleted the message thread and set my phone aside. The coffee date with Landon happened the following Tuesday, while Matthew was at work and Ava was at school. We met at a small cafe across town, somewhere we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. "I'm glad you came," Landon said as we settled into a corner booth. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why wouldn't I? We're friends, right?" "Of course. It's just—" Matthew seemed pretty uncomfortable the other night. I waved dismissively. "Matthew's been going through something lately. He's become really possessive and paranoid. I think it's a midlife crisis or something." Landon nodded sympathetically. "That must be hard for you." "It is. I feel like I can't be myself around him anymore. He analyzes everything I say and do. It's exhausting." We talked for 2 hours about everything: my job, his recent promotion, our mutual friends, and increasingly, my marriage problems. Landon was such a good listener, so understanding. He didn't make me feel crazy or wrong for wanting to have fun. "You're such an amazing person, Eulalia," he said as we prepared to leave. "Matthew's lucky to have you." "Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone." We started texting regularly after that. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly conversations that gradually became more personal. Landon would ask about my day, compliment my photos on social media, and listen when I vented about Matthew's increasing coldness. Meanwhile, At home, things were getting worse. Matthew had become almost completely withdrawn. He'd come home, help Ava with homework, eat dinner in relative silence, and then disappear into his office or go to bed early. One evening, I confronted him about it. "Matthew, we need to talk. You've been acting strange for weeks now." "Strange how?" he asked, without looking up from his laptop. "Cold, distant. You barely talk to me anymore." "I'm just busy with work." "This isn't about work, and we both know it. You're still upset about me being friendly with your friends, aren't you?" He finally looked at me. "Friendly? Is that what you call it?" "Yes. God, Matthew, I haven't done anything wrong. I've been completely faithful to you, but apparently I'm not allowed to have conversations with other men without you getting paranoid." "I'm not paranoid, Eulalia." "Then what would you call it? You're acting like I'm having an affair when all I've done is be social at parties." He stared at me for a long moment, then closed his laptop. "You're right, I'm sorry. I'll try to be less paranoid." But his apology felt hollow, and his behavior didn't change. If anything, he became even more distant. I called my mother to complain. "Mija, life is short," Carmen said. "If Matthew can't appreciate you, maybe you need to find someone who will. You're wasting your youth on a man who doesn't value you." "I'm not going to cheat on my husband, Mom." "Who said anything about cheating? I'm talking about living your life. You deserve to be happy." Meanwhile, Patricia was apparently keeping track of my behavior at social gatherings. I overheard her talking to Darren at a family barbecue. "She's making a fool of him and he's just taking it. I don't understand why he won't stand up for himself." "Maybe he's trying to save his marriage," Darren replied. "By letting her humiliate him? That's not saving anything." I was furious. How dare she talk about me like that? I wasn't humiliating anyone. I was just refusing to be controlled by an insecure husband. That night, Landon texted me. "Rough day? You seemed upset at the barbecue." "Just dealing with judgmental in-laws," I replied. "Want to talk about it? I'm free tomorrow afternoon." I hesitated. We'd been texting for weeks, but we'd only met for coffee that one time. Meeting again felt like crossing a line, but I was so frustrated and lonely. "Okay, but somewhere private. I don't need more gossip." "My place? I'll make lunch." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Sounds good." The next morning, Matthew left for work unusually early, taking a small folder with him. I barely noticed, too focused on my plans with Landon. Lunch at Landon's apartment was innocent enough, sandwiches and conversation on his couch. But the atmosphere was different than at the cafe, more intimate, more charged. "You seem so much more relaxed here," Landon observed. "I feel like I can be myself. At home, I'm constantly walking on eggshells, worried about how Matthew will interpret everything I say or do." "That's no way to live." "No, it's not." We sat closer together than we should have. When Landon reached over to brush a crumb from my cheek, I didn't pull away. When he complimented my perfume, I felt a thrill I hadn't experienced in years. "Eulalia," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I think I'm falling for you." My heart pounded. "Landon, I know you're married. I know this is complicated. But I can't pretend I don't have feelings for you." "I care about you too," I admitted. "But I don't know what to do about it." "We don't have to do anything. Just don't shut me out, okay?" I nodded, and when he leaned in to kiss me, I let him. It was just a kiss, I told myself. Just a moment of connection with someone who appreciated me. But that kiss changed everything. Our texts became more frequent and more intimate. We started calling each other when we knew it was safe. I found myself looking forward to our conversations more than anything else in my day. At home, Matthew's behavior became even more puzzling. Instead of being suspicious or confrontational, he became almost eerily calm. He stopped asking where I'd been or who I'd been talking to. He stopped trying to engage me in arguments about my behavior. "How was your day?" he'd ask politely at dinner. "Fine," I'd reply, and that would be the end of it. It was unnerving. I'd expected him to fight for our marriage, to show some passion or jealousy. Instead, he seemed to have given up entirely. One evening, I decided to test him. "I had lunch with Landon today," I announced casually. "That's nice," Matthew replied without looking up from his plate. "Just the two of us, at his apartment." "Okay." His lack of reaction frustrated me. "Doesn't that bother you at all?" "Should it?" "I don't know. Most husbands would have questions if their wife was spending time alone with another man." "I trust you," he said simply. But something in his tone made me uneasy. It didn't sound like trust. It sounded like resignation. That night, I called Tracy to vent. "He's either completely clueless or he's planning something," she said. "Men don't just stop caring overnight." "Maybe he's having an affair," I suggested. "That would explain why he's been working late so much." "Have you checked his phone? His computer?" "I'm not going to snoop on my husband." "Why not? He'd probably snoop on you if he suspected something." The thought planted a seed of paranoia. Was Matthew cheating on me? Was that why he'd stopped caring about my friendship with Landon? I started paying closer attention to his behavior. He was definitely spending more time at the office than usual. He'd started taking calls in private. He'd even bought new clothes recently, something he never did without prompting. When I confronted him about it, he was maddeningly calm. "I told you I'm busy with work. We're expanding our client base." "What kind of expansion requires you to work until 8 p.m. every night?" "The kind that pays for our mortgage and Ava's education." "And the new clothes, the private phone calls?" He looked at me with that same unreadable expression. "I'm trying to be more professional. Is that a problem?" "It's suspicious." "I see. So, when you spend time with Landon, it's innocent friendship. But when I work late, it's suspicious." "That's different." "How?" I couldn't explain how, but it felt different. My friendship with Landon was about emotional connection, about feeling valued and appreciated. Matthew's behavior felt secretive and calculating. That weekend, Darren stopped by to see Matthew. They talked quietly in the backyard while I did laundry. "Everything okay with you and Eulalia?" I heard Darren ask. "We're working through some things," Matthew replied. "Mom's worried about you. She thinks you should see someone about your marriage." I am seeing someone. My blood ran cold. He was seeing someone? A therapist? A lawyer? Another woman? That evening, after Darren left and Ava was in bed, I confronted Matthew directly. "Are you having an affair?" "No, Eulalia, I'm not having an affair." "Then who are you seeing? I heard you tell Darren you were seeing someone about our marriage." "I am." "But it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "It's nothing you need to worry about right now." His evasiveness infuriated me. I have a right to know what's going on in my own marriage. "Do you?" he asked quietly. "Because lately, it feels like you've checked out of this marriage entirely." "I haven't checked out. I've been trying to save us by showing you that you need to trust me more. By flirting with my friends? By having lunch dates with Landon? By coming home smelling like another man's cologne?" So he had noticed. Nothing happened. I didn't say anything happened, but something is happening, isn't it? I felt cornered. We're friends, that's all. Friends who text each other constantly, friends who meet secretly, friends who kiss. My heart stopped. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that you've been lying to me for weeks." "I haven't been lying." "Lying by omission is still lying, Eulalia." I was about to respond when he held up his hand. "Don't. Just don't. We'll talk about this properly tomorrow." The next evening, Matthew came home from work, carrying a manila envelope. He set it on the kitchen table, where I was helping Ava with homework. "Ava, sweetheart, Go play in your room for a while. Mommy and Daddy need to talk. After she left, he opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of legal documents. These are separation papers, he said calmly. I'm also filing for joint custody of Ava, with specific provisions about her living arrangements. I stared at the papers in shock. Matthew, what are you doing? I'm protecting myself and our daughter. From what? I haven't done anything wrong. Haven't you? He pulled out another folder and spread its contents across the table. Phone bills highlighting calls to Landon, screenshots of text messages, bank statements showing cash withdrawals I'd used for lunches and coffee dates, even a receipt from a hotel bar where Landon and I had met for drinks the previous week. Where did you get these? It doesn't matter where I got them. What matters is that I have them. You've been spying on me. I've been documenting your behavior. There's a difference. I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. Matthew, please, let's talk about this. We can work through this. I tried to work through this for months, Eulalia. I tried to trust you when you said it was just flirting. I tried to believe you when you said I was being paranoid. But you kept pushing and pushing until you crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. It was just a kiss. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. And more importantly, it meant something to Ava. Ava doesn't know anything about this. Ava knows her parents are fighting. She knows her mother comes home late and lies about where she's been. She knows her father has been sleeping in the guest room for 3 weeks. I hadn't realized he'd been sleeping in the guest room. I'd been so caught up in my own drama that I'd stopped paying attention to the details of our daily life. We can fix this, I pleaded. I'll stop talking to Landon. We can go to counseling. I made a counseling appointment 6 weeks ago. You never showed up. You never told me about it. He pulled out another paper, an email confirmation for a marriage counseling appointment I'd apparently ignored. I sent this to your personal email. You responded that you were too busy with work. I stared at the email, vaguely remembering dismissing it as spam. Matthew, please, don't do this. Think about Ava. I am thinking about Ava. That's why I'm doing this. The next few days were a blur of phone calls to lawyers, frantic conversations with family members, and desperate attempts to control the narrative. I called Tracy first. He's completely overreacting, I told her. It was just flirting and one stupid kiss. Now he's trying to take my daughter away from me. That's insane, Tracy agreed. You should fight this. Get your own lawyer and show the court that he's being vindictive. But when I met with my lawyer, the conversation didn't go as I'd expected. Mrs. Brent, I need you to be completely honest with me about your relationship with Mr. Cruz, the lawyer said after reviewing Matthew's evidence. We're friends. I may have gotten a little too close, but nothing really happened. According to these text messages, you told him you were falling in love with him. I'd forgotten about that text. I was emotional. My marriage was falling apart. And this hotel receipt? We met for drinks, in the lobby bar. It was completely innocent. The receipt shows a room charge. My stomach dropped. That's not what it looks like. Mrs. Brent, I can't help you if you're not honest with me. The truth was that Landon and I had gotten a room that day. Not to sleep together, but to have privacy to talk. We'd kissed, we'd held each other, we'd talked about running away together. But we hadn't had sex, at least, not technically. We didn't have sex, I said finally. But you were intimate? We cared about each other, but I never crossed that final line. A judge might not see the distinction. I left the lawyer's office feeling defeated. How had things gotten so out of control? All I'd wanted was to feel appreciated, to test whether my husband really trusted me. I'd never intended for it to go this far. When I got home, Patricia was there picking up Ava for a sleepover. She looked at me with undisguised contempt. I hope you're satisfied, she said coldly. Patricia, this is between Matthew and me. No, it's not. It's between you and your family, and you've chosen to destroy it. I haven't destroyed anything. I made some mistakes, but Matthew is the one who's giving up on our marriage. Matthew spent months trying to save your marriage while you were running around with his friend. Don't you dare blame him for protecting himself. After she left with Ava, I called my mother, desperate for support. Mija, maybe this is for the best, Carmen said, surprising me. If Matthew can't forgive you for being human, maybe you're better off without him. I don't want to be without him. I want my family back. Then you should have thought about that before you started playing games. Even my own mother was turning against me. That evening, Landon called. Eulalia, I heard about the separation. I'm so sorry. Are you? Because this is partially your fault too. My fault? You told me your marriage was over. You said Matthew didn't appreciate you. I was venting. I didn't expect you to take it as an invitation to pursue me. You pursued me just as much as I pursued you. He was right, and I hated him for it. I can't see you anymore, I said. I need to focus on saving my marriage. It's a little late for that, don't you think? After I hung up, I sat alone in my empty house and tried to figure out how I'd gotten here. 6 months ago, I'd had a stable marriage, a loving husband, and a happy daughter. Now I was facing divorce, potential custody issues, and the judgment of everyone I knew. The worst part was that I still didn't feel like I'd done anything that terrible. Yes, I'd flirted with Landon. Yes, I'd developed feelings for him. Yes, I'd kissed him and spent time alone with him. But I'd never intended to leave my marriage. I'd never planned to hurt Matthew or Ava. I'd just wanted to feel alive again. The court proceedings were a nightmare. Matthew's lawyer had built an airtight case documenting months of what they called emotional infidelity and deliberate humiliation of their client. They had text messages, call logs, witness statements, and even testimony from Ava's school counselor about the child's behavioral changes. I sat in the courtroom listening to my life being dissected by strangers, watching Matthew present himself as the long-suffering husband who'd tried everything to save his marriage. The worst part was that it was all true. Your Honor, my lawyer argued, Mrs. Brent made some poor choices, but she never physically consummated her relationship with Mr. Cruz. She's a devoted mother who deserves joint custody of her daughter. But Matthew's lawyer was ready for that argument. Your Honor, emotional infidelity can be just as damaging as physical infidelity, sometimes more so. Mrs. Brent didn't just have an affair, she conducted it publicly, humiliating my client in front of their mutual friends and family. She gaslit him when he expressed concern, made him question his own perceptions, and continued the relationship even after he discovered it. They presented evidence I didn't even know existed. Patricia had been keeping a diary of my behavior at family gatherings. Darren had recorded a conversation where I'd joked about Matthew being too boring for me. Even Tracy had provided a statement about our conversations where I'd complained about my marriage. Mrs. Brent, the judge said, addressing me directly, do you have anything to say in your defense? I stood up, my legs shaking. Your Honor, I love my husband and daughter. I made mistakes, but I was trying to save my marriage by testing whether my husband trusted me. I never meant for things to go as far as they did. Testing your husband's trust by developing a relationship with another man? It wasn't supposed to be a real relationship. It was supposed to show him that he needed to appreciate me more. Even as I said the words, I could hear how they sounded. Manipulative, calculated, cruel. The judge reviewed the evidence one more time, then delivered his ruling. I find that Mrs. Brent engaged in a pattern of behavior designed to emotionally manipulate and humiliate her husband. While she may not have committed adultery in the traditional sense, her actions show a deliberate disregard for her marriage vows and the emotional well-being of her family. He awarded Matthew primary custody of Ava, with me getting supervised visitation until I completed counseling. The house would be sold, with proceeds split according to our prenuptial agreement. Matthew would retain most of his retirement accounts and other assets. Mrs. Brent, I strongly encourage you to seek professional help to understand why you made the choices you did. Your daughter needs both parents, but she needs them to be emotionally healthy. As we left the courtroom, I watched Matthew walk away surrounded by his family. Patricia, Darren, even some of our mutual friends who had chosen sides. He looked relieved, vindicated, free. I walked to my car alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Landon. I heard about the ruling. I'm sorry. If you need someone to talk to. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Sitting in my car in the courthouse parking lot, I finally allowed myself to really think about what I'd done. I'd destroyed my marriage not because I'd fallen out of love with Matthew, but because I'd wanted to prove I had power over him. I'd wanted to make him jealous, to make him fight for me, to make him appreciate me more. Instead, I'd shown him exactly who I was. Someone who would hurt the people she claimed to love just to feel important. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd tested Matthew's love and trust, and he'd failed my test by not tolerating my betrayal. But in doing so, he'd shown me something I hadn't expected, that real love includes protecting yourself from people who would deliberately hurt you. I'd wanted him to fight for our marriage, but I'd made it impossible for him to do so with any self-respect intact. As I drove home to my empty house, I realized that I'd gotten exactly what I'd asked for. I'd tested our love, and I'd discovered the truth. The truth was that my version of love was selfish and destructive, while his was strong enough to walk away when staying would have meant accepting abuse. I'd thought I was testing his trust, but I'd actually been testing his self-worth, and thankfully, for his sake and Ava's, he'd passed. Now I was left to figure out who I wanted to be. The woman who'd destroyed her family to feed her ego, or someone who could learn from her mistakes and become worthy of the love she'd thrown away. The legal papers in my purse told me that Matthew had already made his choice about which version of me he was willing to accept in his life. The question now was whether I could make a different choice about who I wanted to become. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.